you are having your own mini mastermind, because as you see things and as things pop into your mind, hopefully you're writing them down. I write all my ideas, and as I'm masterminding with myself and idea dumping and thinking about what am I going to put in this course or program or challenge, and I'm thinking of all of the ideas. So what I do is I go for titles first. I go for the big idea, right? That's what I do first. So I go for the idea. It's a course. I'm going to have to break the course. How is it better for people to come to the course? They have homework. Normally my courses do not have homework, but I'm thinking for the coaching one, there need to be practice sessions outside of class time. So I'm thinking, well, if they came as a pair, then that means that those two people who are friends would get together anyway, hopefully, and they will practice together. So basically I'm going for the big overview. I'm going, what's going to go in each section and each module. Hello and welcome. Mentoring with Geraldine is a bite-sized practitioner podcast for naturopaths, nutritionists, herbalists, and practitioners. This podcast responds directly to your needs, the needs of the practicing natural therapist. With interviews, herbal discussions, something business and something clinical each week, you'll get the variety you need and enjoy to stay motivated in practice. Hello, and welcome to Mentoring with Geraldine and the Bite Size Podcast. How are you going? I wanted to talk to you today about masterminding for yourself, right? So I do lots of masterminding within the academy, and I do lots of masterminding with people one-to-one. But I thought there are times when we as individuals want to create, or we want to learn, we want to develop, we want to make, we want to expand, we want to do something. And we have to have a bit of a system. We have to create that thing. And how do we do that? So I thought, well, I'd give you my top tips on what I do. Well, number one is I go for a nice long walk. I have thought of all sorts of things when I've been walking. I was in Wilpena Pound, which is several hours north of Adelaide, and it's an old volcanic pound, but it's very old. So there's sort of hills around the side. And I was climbing up to St. Mary's Peak. And it's quite a stiff climb, and it's over lots of boulders, and you're pulling yourself up and, hoping that your legs will go the 1 meter stretch up the next boulder sort of thing. And as I was walking up, I started developing a challenge. And I was thinking, this was one of the old challenges several years ago now. And as I'm walking up, I'm thinking of the challenge. And there were certain corners on this mountain where I would get internet. And I was in the middle of nowhere. There was literally no internet. But because I was standing on, we're in Australia, there's no mountains. We're standing on a hill. Every time I sort of got to a corner or a piece of land that jutted out, I would randomly get internet. So I was taking photos of myself. I did a countdown as I was going up. I was like, 0 day, 1 day, 2 day, 3 day, 4 day, 5 day. And then I was thinking about what we would do on those days and how we would do things. And so as I'm climbing this hill, which took me a couple of hours, and it was very strenuous, and I had wobbly legs, I can tell you, by the top, and even wobblier legs when I got down to the bottom, and they were definitely wobbly the next day. But as I'm going up, I'm thinking of what would I want? What would I need? How would I do that? What helped me that I learned? And so I was able to develop the challenge. Now, it's not always going to be as bright, shiny light, boom, there it is, like that is. But what I do find is I have to get out of myself and away from my space, or I need to be talking to someone else for a light to shine, for there to be that light bulb moment, to me go, yeah, I can carry that from here. Recently, I was talking to the people who do my Facebook advertising, and I was chatting to them, and then they were like, so when's your next? So we're doing the pediatric online mastery course at the moment. And of course, the graduate program's underway. And I'm developing a coaching course for naturopaths, because what naturopaths, and nutritionists, naturopaths, nutritionists, herbalists, anyone really in the one-to-one health business, because what everybody's saying to me is, I had this client and I was really struggling. And then the client said to me, you should be a coach. And I'm thinking I need to use language differently and all of the things. And I trained to be a coach many moons ago, and with all the hypnosis, and which is NLP and all the other things that I've done, there's a lot more techniques that I know of and that I can share. So I'm in the middle of creating this course that will happen in October, I'm thinking. So I'm chatting away to the guys from my digital marketing people from Tribe Digital that I use. And I was like, maybe I'll do a challenge prior to it. And I said, oh, but it doesn't really work. So that's my birthday. And they're like, oh, a birthday challenge for we have a long weekend here in Adelaide. And I know Canberra has a long weekend. There's long weekends in some places, but not everywhere, for the first weekend in October. And it's like, oh, we could have a challenge that week. And then the following week, I'd end it with the webinar, the Finding Your Flow webinar. So here I am thinking of all of the, I'm having a little mastermind. I'm having a conversation with someone and ideas are popping into my head. For me to develop then from that, okay, so I've got my title, I've got my idea. In this case, it's another challenge, but, there's obviously this happened for me to develop the course. I had the moments of hearing people, what they were saying, what they were missing out on, what they needed more of. And so it's like, well, we need to develop a course specifically for people like us who we've got our degrees or advanced diplomas, and we're helping people in an educated, health way, right? So there's all sorts of things that you can do. There's all sorts of parts to that. And so I have to develop that, just like I have to develop the birthday challenge. So I've come up with the titles, but then how do I develop what's in it? And how do I develop, perhaps you're thinking about, how am I going to develop my social media? How am I going to develop a program for my clients? What is it going to contain? And so you are having your own mini mastermind, because as you see things and as things pop into your mind, hopefully you're writing them down. So I've got I don't know where I got it. It's a planner book, but it's a meal planning book. So it's absolutely useless because I never meal plan anything. That's all pretty random in this household. And but I have one side of that is a pink page and the other side is the meal plan. So on the pink side, I write all my ideas, and as I'm masterminding with myself and idea dumping and thinking about what am I going to put in this course or program or challenge, and I'm thinking of all of the ideas. So what I do is I go for titles first. I go for the big idea, right? That's what I do first. So I go for the idea, it's a course. I'm going to have to break the course. How is it better for people to come to the course? Should they have homework? Normally my courses do not have homework, but I'm thinking for the coaching one, there need to be practice sessions outside of class time. So I'm thinking, well, if they came as a pair, then that means that those two people who are friends would get together anyway, hopefully, and they will practice together, which would really help with interviewing styles and techniques. And then if they recorded one, then I could see it afterwards. Maybe that would work. So basically I'm going for the big overview. I'm going, what's going to go in each section and each module? If it's a challenge, what's going to happen every day? What is the overall theme? So I've got a birthday challenge. What is the theme? And then I break it down into the days. I've got a course or a program. I've got a working title. That's not to say that's going to be the final title, because sometimes I've used my working title as the title and I thought this is the longest, clumpiest title name ever. But we have a working title. And then once we've got that, we have this upper overview. Then we go the next level down from that. And we think, what comes into each of the sections? What comes in to each portion, shall we say, into each module, or each, if it's a program, maybe you're delivering it weekly, what happens each week? What is it they need to have each week? If they're going to have appointments, at what point within your program do they need to have those appointments? If it's a challenge, are they going to win something at the end? What's that going to be? So what we do is we start big with a big idea, and it's an idea, and then we chunk it down, okay? And we make it smaller and smaller and smaller in those ideas. So we've got the big picture, the name, then we've got, it's going to be a 3-6 week course. It's going to be a 9-day challenge. It's going to be whatever. Then we break it into what's going to happen on each of those modules or days or systems. And then from there, we break that down again. So within this first module or day, we're going to have them write something, post something. We're going to have them weigh themselves. We're going to have them mark what they eat, whatever it might be. So we break it down again, and then we break that down again. So if we're asking them how to weigh themselves, are we giving them something to write that on? Are we, are we going to measure themselves as well? Are we giving them instructions on weighing themselves? The scales need to be on a hard surface, et cetera, et cetera. So we're breaking each thing down again and again and again. And as you break these big things down from this huge overview down to each small point, it makes it easier. Because once you've got it down at the small things, so it might be, I'm going to do some social media this week. I'm going to do social media this week. That feels like a huge goal, doesn't it? It feels massive. We chunk it down. So how am I going to do that? Maybe I will do my motivations. I will do 7 motivations in Canva, and that's 7 weeks worth, because I'll put them out on Monday motivations. So I've got 7, and it's taken me 20 minutes because I've used the same background for all of them. I've just got different motivations on them. And so on and so forth, because as we reduce them down, that's the thing, as we take this big picture, this big idea, and we break it down and down and down and down, and we reduce it and reduce it and reduce it. So it becomes easier for us to tackle. It becomes easier for us to create what we need at the end. I hope that's making sense, because I want you to think big picture, and then I want you to downward, so that you've got this focus, so that you can narrow the focus of each thing, so that you can bring it down to modules or emails or recordings, and then down from, I'm going to make a recording. The recording is going to contain this, this, and this. I'm going to deliver it via this system. I need an email for that. Because as we break it down, so we make it easier, because I'm going to paint the house. Really? That's a huge job. I'm going to paint the window frames, much smaller. I'm going to paint the window frames on the front of the house. Do you see what I mean? It's suddenly things become achievable. Yes, I can paint the window frame at the front of my house on the lounge room on a Saturday afternoon. And if I do 1 window each Saturday afternoon, then they'll be done in X length of time. And it's the same with creating these modules. If I break it down and break it down and break it down, then I can create what needs to be created in the time allotted to me. So it's just a great way of reducing it down so things aren't scary. So I've created 7 quotes for Monday motivations. I'm going to now have a look at all the meals I've cooked and the photos I've taken, or the photos I've eaten in restaurants, and say what's in them, and talk about maybe an ingredient. So that might be something or other, Food Friday or whatever it is. So that then, okay, I've got 7 of those. I've now got 7 weeks worth of a Friday post, because every time you see the big picture, it gets scary. Every time we break that big picture down, it becomes achievable. The more we break it down, the easier it becomes, and the more achievable that becomes. So that's how you mastermind with yourself. You get the idea. It might be by yourself while you're out for a walk. It might be while you're lying in the bath, but you get the idea. Then you start breaking it down. It might be while you're talking to somebody else, in which case you can probably have a conversation that sparks even more ideas. Once you have that big idea, break it down, break it down, break it down, break it down into bite-sized chunks like this bite-sized podcast, so that you can create what you need to create. If you want to help with creating things, then let me know. Get in contact, Geraldine@mentoringwithgeraldine.biz. I'd love to hear from you. And if you'd like me to talk about anything in particular, please let me know. So it's been great chatting with you today, and I hope you have an absolutely brilliant rest of day. And I look forward to catching up with you really, really soon. See ya. Thanks so much for joining me today. Don't forget to rate, review, and subscribe to the podcast for the weekly episodes. If you'd like even more support and learning, then the Academy is for you. Here you'll find part 2 of the Herbal Discussions, more clinical learning, and case studies to support your clients in practice. Bye for now.